website at www.eastham.ma.gov. As we normally do, we will go around and introduce ourselves. I will start with myself. I am the chair of the Climate Action Committee, Roberta Longley. John, I will start with you. John is our new member.
Hello, everybody. I'm John. Oh, John Moyne. So we're going to get into this member, first meeting. Very happy to be part of this group.
I'm Roy Maroli. I've been on Climate Action Committee since it started.
Cheryl Gale, I think it's the clerk, is that?
Yes. Okay.
And Tommy Nellis.
All right. And Mike, we'll go around to our, yes.
Barry Sonical, I am from the recycling committee. I'm the liaison between the recycling committee and the climate action.
And Jack Hadley, just an observer and volunteer participant.
Yes, very important.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, I guess we'll just get down to the agenda. I have no administrative matters, only to share that Mike Sarcione, am I pronouncing his name correctly? He is a committee member. He has expressed interest in being the Eastham representative for CVAC, the Cape and Islands.
Cape and Vineyard Electrification Corporation.
Thank you very much.
So it's CV,
Yes.
CVEC.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And we have shared that information. Tom has shared that information with Jackie. Jackie said she'd be pleased to have someone from the committee represent Eastham. And that information has been passed on to Jackie. We have not yet heard, and I guess Tom has a bit of an list to follow up with Jackie to see what needs to do to for appointment, which is maybe asking the select board to approve it or something. I'm not quite sure, but
So Cape and Island Electric Cooperative.
Cape and Vineyard.
Oh,
Electric.
Cooperative.
Yes. And they are the organization that works for creating renewable opportunities, renewables for municipalities and probably private as well. I'm not sure. Just
municipalities.
yeah. So it'll be great to have Mike on that board to find out what opportunities exist for Eastham in that area. So it's pretty exciting. Public comments as well. We don't seem to have anybody online today. So, yeah.
Oh, let's see, public comments. I just want to bring you up to date on what the climate, the recycling committee is up to. They pretty much focus on something that the DPW is very concerned about, and that's solid waste. They're controlling the tonnage of solid waste that Eastham produces. And it's very much related to composting. So there's a lot of outreach going on sort of composting, because composting, if it's done right, will reduce our solid waste volume. So they're very closely connected, and we want to talk about outreach on both. Why we need to keep solid waste down, and how composting helps. They're also working with speakers to the outside.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Speak up.
Oh, so.
Sorry.
Also.
And they're also working vigorously on the Windmill Weekend. They come up with a theme for that, and also some flyers and giveaways to give out at the Windmill Weekend. And that's pretty much taking the focus right now.
Thank you, Derek.
Any updates on plastic? Somebody asked us about that recently. I can't remember what that was.
Well, plastic is part of our solid waste. Keep plastics out of solid waste and put it in recycling.
Sounds.
There's another story right now, but we won't go.
And I guess at some point, recycling will be revisiting the grant that's been offered on the Cape to have communities work together on single serve plastics. These things move slowly, and I'm assuming that we're looking at.
Not yet, but I know our chair, profession is very much in touch with Jill, is it? From
Yeah.
CARE,
Great.
Cape and the Islands, she's very much in touch with
Right.
her.
That's excellent. Being nice to have these time representing. Great. Thank you, Derek.
And when you talk about plastics, Jerry, does that tie into that town meeting? You know, thing that we wanted, is that,
That's what she was talking about. Remember last meeting, we talked about so many things. There is a $300,000 grant that's been awarded.
oh, that's right, okay.
What's the name of the group? Cape Cares?
Care for the Cape and Islands.
Yes. $300,000.
That's
It's a
right.
fair amount of money. The idea is to pull together communities and volunteer and business organizations to come up with some solid,
Forever.
yes, parameters to eliminate.
Okay, so your chair is doing that.
Is this a state appropriation?
Yes. It is. I believe, don't quote me. I read it, I just forgot. It's either state or federal money. Yeah. Well, they're both pretty deep pocketed when it comes to this stuff. Anyway, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, any other comments?
Well, just I want to thank Tom for putting me on the mailing list for the solar working group. It's been good to see all the exchanges, and it's clear we have a long way to catch up. So it's a start.
So you're part of the official group now.
Of the solar working group, I think so.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
on the email list. That's about as official as it gets.
And hi, we have another visitor who came in.
Hi there. Yeah, I was at the meeting in, at the COA,
Great.
and I had said that I would help if I could, volunteer.
And your name?
Mary Nicolini,
Mary?
Mary, and my last name is Nicolini, Nicolini.
Oh, great. Well,
That's recorded.
thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we really were just talking committee business. I think that maybe you'll glean some from it and maybe get some ideas about how you can get involved. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Okay. No, nobody else online today, so I guess we'll move to minutes. The minutes,
Kenna did send in some comments.
yes, but we'll get that to.
Okay. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, staff.
Yeah.
Not a mistake. Got it.
Has anyone, I assume everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent out to you last week with the agenda. Any comments or changes or suggestions?
I move approval.
Okay, going to,
Okay, Cheryl, yea or nay?
oh, well, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's, the minutes for July 10th meeting have been approved
So
unanimously.
unanimous.
All right, John.
I mean,
They still have to vote even though they.
Oh.
don't.
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
approved.
I'm sorry. I'm a little tired.
Thank you.
And I also want to comment on the quality of the minutes. They're super. You know, very clear.
Don't get your hopes up.
And
All right, staff update. Shayna was not able to join us. Shayna is our liaison, staff liaison to the committee, Shayna Rogan. She normally attends every other meeting, usually by Zoom, and she was not able to meet this evening, but she did provide some updates to us this afternoon. And maybe I could just share some of that with you.
And can you email me that to put in the minutes? They,
Sure.
thank you.
She mentioned that the strategic planning committee should be meeting soon in September or October to begin updating the plan. And they expect to be done by town meeting 2024. And they expect to be meeting with a different group monthly. For example, the open space committee, the affordable housing committee, and so on. She said, Shayna said, we'll provide them with the climate action committee's goals to review. So we have to talk about that today to finalize our recommendations. The town center plaza tea time design is not actively being reviewed right now at this time. Paul Lag is working with a consultant on form-based code, which will be a set of zoning bylaws that the town will vote on at town meeting. that states what types of buildings will go there and so forth. So that seems to be one of the priorities right now, as opposed to working on the design itself. And the other one is traffic. And the third one, I believe, is water. So there's a lot of hurdles before we design.
I think
Plans.
septic might be up there too.
Yeah. Two other interesting things, she noted that they're getting architectural services for the Beach Plum Motor Lodge property to get some housing units developed there. That won't likely go out into the fall. The budget's small, but if there are any design elements that the committee would like to have considered for efficiency, please let me know, she says. And then finally, there's some grant funding for studying the Mary Chase Marsh and restoring tidal flow. Well, not directly related to some of the things we've been working on. She just mentioned that, because obviously that was a question problem. That's her update via me. And we'll
Did
talk
you say
about,
how many units at Beach Plum?
No. well, some of these issues we'll talk about later in the meeting. Okay, so now we'll get into the meat of the discussion, and the first item on our agenda is the strategic plan recommendations draft. I'm passing them around so we can talk. That is a small change. Sorry, I only have two more. Maybe the two of you can share, I'm sorry. As you can see, we've been through a lot of drafts over the past few months. We did bring this to the committee. Tom and I brought this to the committee several months ago. There were suggestions and recommendations at that meeting. Roy also got very actively involved after that. So he's offered some really, really useful, significant improvements, I think, to the draft. I hope you've had a chance. You were sent last week this, so I assume that you've read it. But on page 3, there has been a minor recommendation. Minor, it's language. This was from Mike. He was not able to attend tonight. Mike, committee member Mike. He had some thoughts about the language in proposed goal number 2. And Tom, you, I think, interacted with him. I did not, so maybe you can
Okay,
share
sure,
some of the thoughts behind that.
Yeah, he asked to pass on his thoughts. He said regarding goal 2, as it was written. He was concerned that it might give the impression that we're going to prevent or repair impact coastal properties who are inundated by higher tides and storms. And he's worried about that because people certainly take a level of risk by building along the shore. And that insurance does cover some of that. So that was his thought.
Does anyone have any comment on that particular change or anything else in the document?
I would just say that particular change seems wise to me. It sort of sharpens the goal and, I mean, I think the reasoning sort of stands on its own.
Great.
And just a clarifying question, I don't know if it's around the strategic plan in general, or this is for the municipality, right, per se? To follow, this is the strategic plan for the municipality, and because when I read it, it talks about building strategies and, codes and things like that. And so I'm thinking of like the Northeastern Village Project, or even the Little Plum Village. Like when we develop affordable housing, often it goes out for bid and a private contractor does it. And so, and I'm hoping, obviously, in the RFP, they'll have the language we need them to have. But my question is, does the strategic plan dribble you know, to come down to affect those things anyways. Do you know what I'm saying? Because eventually they're not owned usually, even the one in brackets, not owned by us. We maybe, I don't know if we own the land, but I'm just wondering, how far does this trickle down?
And that's a really good question, and I think. This is the walk before you run
Yes,
kind of approach, because we have nothing like this.
Oh,
other than an
exactly.
Emergency from.
no, I think this is great, but I was
So-
trying to get and again, maybe we're.
Yeah, so maybe Roy can answer that, but
You know,
at least,
like, what does the strategic plan, who does it really influence?
yeah, so I mean, at least I'll mention that maybe Roy can give his ideas, but. The intent was to start setting that stage, to get get the discussion going
Mhm.
amongst the administration, the select board. What is it that we want to do? These are high level.
Right,
Next step after this, at least for us, would be a climate action plan with a lot of details. And I think also for strategic planning, at some point, very detailed steps get put in there as well. I guess we're not sure if that happens this year for an out of cycle addition to the plan, but yeah, we didn't go quite that far because we thought discussion had to happen to get those details.
oh, right. I didn't necessarily think all the details would be there, but does even the overview help? And I hear you saying, yes, this is hopefully setting the stage.
It's hard to know how deep we need to go with this. We do not want a 25-page document. You know what I'm saying?
And the regular strategic plan is in DP.
Right. Well, the tasks tend to be.
Yeah.
minute,
Very,
But
very,
yeah, right. And I think our effort was to try to keep it as broad as possible, to
Right.
hit all the areas that
Yeah.
we feel are
Mhm.
priority. And your question about affordable housing, sometimes that's complicated, but we could call that publicly funded, couldn't we?
It's usually a private public partnership.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess we're thinking climate action committee is saying that any, and at some point, maybe we bring this up, any affordable housing project needs to keep this, this point in mind that we're focusing on net zero standards for any kind of building that goes on. By the
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to be affordable housing. I mean,
Right.
look at. You know, we had this condo association built over here.
Right,
And so when it just comes generally to zoning and.
Right.
Things like
not to
that.
mention the Northeast Ham Village. project.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Did you notice anything that may exclude that type of partnership?
No,
Tried to be very broad.
no. It wasn't really a critique of, it was more of the larger. Thought, when I was reading this, it made me just think of. Over the next 10 years or so, all the housing, hopefully that might happen at whatever. Level it might be that. So no, I really thought this was very well written for.
Quick
The
question.
strategic plan.
Can you remind me what timing we're working to with this document? Is there a?
Do we know yet, Roy?
well, what did they say, September, October?
Yes, before it was unclear what it was because the strategic planning committee was trying to form and
Mhm.
so now that's sort of in the works. They're meeting this fall. It seems like the goal is to do the work over the winter in terms of a revised strategic plan. That's what I read into it. And part of that process by the strategic planning committee is to meet with groups like the Climate Action Committee, the Open Space Committee, the Affordable Housing Committee to get their input on the strategic plan. So in a way, even though we've kind of dragged our feet in getting this draft done, it seems timely,
Mhm.
you know, finally they'll be able to be a group to look at it, so.
What's our audience with this document? Draft, like,
Oh, it's a strategic plan. But although, what's their document, I guess maybe question.
You know, what is the audience of the strategic planning committee?
I noticed in, what Truro did. They went for the select board with their goals. Which I thought might be wise. And then once they got a check off on the goals, then they move forward with more specificity. And I was just trying to think through how would we handle this? How do you keep the select board involved at this point? And the more I thought about it, I said there's gotta be at least some interaction with the select board before the strategic plan committee starts, because I think we want to get our foot in the water soon. And how do we do that? That was,
Do you think the select board or the town administration, such as Jackie and Paul?
I'd say we start with the town administration and ask them if we could go to the select board. And I don't know if we can just pull out our goals, major goals from this. And
What would be our purpose? I mean, I'm all for providing information, but I'm trying to understand what you're thinking we're gonna get out of that presentation with the select board on this. Approvals, changes, yay or nay. I guess I'm trying to. Objective would be.
And what are we looking for ultimately? What's success of this document? Getting these goals incorporated into the strategic plan for the town.
Yeah.
These two goals.
Well, the goals and perhaps the strategies. And again, I think it's not clear, since this is an out of cycle, I think it's an out of cycle update.
it is,
How this fits in, because it's just an update, and this is a fairly major addition.
Yeah,
So
right.
how that happens, which may, or maybe that's even more important for us than to talk to Jackie and Paul as a start. See if they endorse a way to put this in the strategic plan.
I thought we presented an overview of our goals when we met with them. When you did your presentation, I thought not these particular goals, but the
Areas
goals
of concern, yes.
that, and no one said, don't do that. They might have pointed out some additional things.
And even last year, in talking to Jackie, letting her know that we intended to submit some recommendations, she says that's great, submit it to the strategic plan.
She did say that.
Yeah,
Well, maybe the thing to do is to confirm with Jackie, the process is
Yeah.
to go straight to the strategic plan,
Mhm.
or do we need to go before the selectmen? Why don't we just clarify that?
we agree with that.
Yeah, and you can certainly provide a copy of the document if everyone's in
Right.
agreement on the document.
Right.
So you want to spend some time now talking about the document itself?
I think any changes that you recommend, I don't think we're gonna go full through it and
Sure.
line by line.
Oh,
discussion.
good, right. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm proposing a change this, but looking at the core, the goal, the two goals. My question is, would we know if we have been successful in achieving either of those goals? And I think the changes that were made to goal 2 help make them make it more measurable, which is a good thing. Goal number 1, I think there might be some language adjustment you might want to look at there, so that it's a little sharper, that we're going to achieve X.
So I think to answer your question, and answer it a slightly different way, we've adopted terminology that agrees with the Cape Cod Commission and Regional Climate Action, both in terms of the use of the word goal and which in this case, you can see it's by itself, it's not really that measurable, other than we will be watching greenhouse gas, right? We'll do the inventory. We'll have information on greenhouse gas reduction each year after year. But the real gut of it is gonna be getting down to the strategy. Each strategy ultimately has to have a set of actions that are measurable. I mean, and that's where the
the plan.
road, I think.
For the plan.
And another interesting aspect of offering recommendations to a revised strategic plan. East Town has a strategic plan. with established goals already.
Mhm.
So we kind of grappled with, are we offering new goals in addition or whatever? And we decided that the strategic planning committee and the town is going to decide what its goals are. All we can say is what we recommend to include as a goal. So they may, in fact, not change any of the goals that are currently in the strategic plan. So this seemed to flow the best in our minds.
I like,
You know what I'm saying?
And I think there are ways we can directly or indirectly provide some sort of measurements on ourselves later. I mean, and number two is a hard one. Number one,
yes.
greenhouse gases. Number two could be, how many projects are put in place that, I mean, and actually number two is also measured in the MVP plan. In a lot of extra detail.
Mhm. I think it's good work. It's pretty concise, given the ground that you cover, and I like the background. The discussion on climate equity is.
I just need
Good.
people to speak up a little bit.
I'm
It
sorry.
could be me.
Yeah.
There's a little fan.
It's a fan.
Fortunately, they're next to our mics.
Right. So just to repeat the last bit of what I said, I think the discussion on climate equity, which we all acknowledge is very important, is good. It's clear you spent some time thinking that through. And so I don't have a lot of comments personally. I can share some things offline, some language tweaks that I might suggest, but that's about it.
Otherwise.
All right, well, to tell you the truth. As you can see, we're at draft 5B.
So small tweaks.
And I think that we would love to get a vote on this and whether, a vote on whether we approve this draft to be the final version that would then be sent to Jackie to get clarification regarding whether it needs to first go to strategic planning or to just make sure that we have the protocol correct.
I move that we accept this draft as the final draft to be
Right.
sent on to Jackie for
Second.
her advice.
Second.
Okay, John?
Aye.
Hi.
Yes.
Aye.
And there will be time, there'll be
Yeah.
plenty of wordsmithing and shifting along the way there.
With all many documents.
That's right. This is only a beginning. Hopefully we will be asked to come
And
back.
this will be wordsmith by this committee.
And big thanks to
Okay.
Roy for helping us get to where we are. That's,
Yes.
a lot of that
yes.
was some really sharp eyes, but everyone.
Better slowly getting dimmer. It's okay.
What'd you say?
They're getting dimmer. My eyes.
Well, you're not alone.
We're all in that boat.
That's what it is. Okay, that's excellent.
So next step here is to show this to Jackie.
Yes, and ask her to ask her to confirm that we can send it along with the strategic planning committee, or would she rather? And should we, where does the select board fall into that as well? Just make sure that we're covering our bases with everyone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
The next item on the agenda is the North Eastham Village project. This was on the agenda last month. We didn't have time to talk about it, so it's back. And this kind of appeared as it's once again a topic for us, as there was a pretty long interview in the Provincetown Independent about a month or so ago with Jackie, and it was relating to where the project stood. And outlined how we have design plans that they paid a consultant to provide. Various people in the public commented on that. Do you want the blue scenario or you want the black scenario? Anyway, it does seem that there is going to be a lot of very important other matters that have to be decided before design progresses. There was a concern on one of our committee's members' part that there wasn't any discussion about sustainability in the project. So we decided that maybe we should talk about that. And as you recall, a year ago, our committee provided recommendations relating to that project and net zero standards essentially. And we also followed up with a letter to the project design company.
Mhm.
Never had a discussion with anyone about that. So I guess we're revisiting this to see if there is something we want to do now. Do we want to wait? So I'm opening that up for conversation.
Get back when that was first submitted, did that design agent respond at all?
Only in that I went to a meeting. That was a public meeting where they presented, and afterwards I connected with the chief consultant. And I asked him if he had received the letter and the information. He said they very much had, and that was really great. And they were incorporating that information into their final report.
Did we see the final report was?
I don't think there's anything written.
I believe the final report is those final drafts. I don't know the right language for draftings, designs and everything. But you know, there was that we had these and we have, forced choice. First you had these, then you had these,
Yeah,
then you had these, and then the last public report, maybe you've seen something, was we've kind of come up with this
To the select board. It was a final report to the
Yeah.
select board, verbal.
to this. And then what I understand is everything's gone on hold because it's hard to finalize this when you don't know traffic, you don't know water. And I forget what the other issues are, the infrastructure issues need to be addressed. Before you can get much more detail to go up to bid. So I'm not sure how far our recommendations have gotten.
That's.
is there's someone, I guess based on what Jane has said, the committee is done.
Strategic, what was it called? The
Yeah.
Tea Time Committee.
Yeah.
Is that what
I
you're
think
talking
it's just holding, it's
Right.
like this holding pattern, right?
Is this an opportunity to have a discussion during the holding pattern? And so with,
I guess that's a question Roberta could ask Jackie.
When you say a conversation, what do you mean?
so additional back and forth on the recommendation and how they would proceed, and if it's incorporated at all, or if they would like more detail.
We were told when the RFP goes out, we could have some, at least input. I'm not saying total, will they do what we want? But that we could be part of that. I think, and maybe this is what to clarify with Jackie. I think the RFP process is on hold. Because they don't know what they don't know. And what they want to know, they don't know.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm hearing, but maybe we clarify it again with Jackie.
Mhm.
Yeah, my fear is that when the RFP process starts again, it's gonna be all hands on deck, they're gonna
Right.
be.
No, I
Just
think that,
totally consumed with getting that written.
I think that's a legitimate.
So that's what I'm thinking, maybe we can have a little. More freer dialogue at this point. So that they'll have that in their heads when they get to the RFP point, and we can do our homework if they need anything else done.
Revisiting it with the town administrator.
Yeah, I
essentially.
think so.
Yeah, okay.
Cause I'm thinking, recent in my head is we've been discussing in the solar working group. About solar on the Nauset Regional High School building. And we've been having a heck of a time trying to find out what's going on. Well, I finally found out today, which is they put them on hold. So went back and looked at early recommendations and town meeting, not town meeting, but town forums. and public forums discussing the project. And the residents were like, sustainability needs to be built into this, it's important to us. The students spoke up, said the same thing. And silent for a while, and then the Massachusetts Building Department for Schools, I can remember the acronym, sent a question back to the design agent and said, this was in all of the early recommendations, what happened to it? And they said, well, we're thinking about it. And what we're hearing now is it's going to all put on hold.
The fact of doing solar at all,
Solar, yeah, and they're not gonna make it solar ready, maybe consider it later.
Very conservative.
It may be a financial issue.
They could very well be.
oh, I'm sure it is, but anyways, that's not.
Yeah, so getting that done earlier, especially if there's financial questions, we can work out ways
I think you're
that
making a
that
good,
we can figure out. Again, there may be homework we have to do, but there may be ways to get solar at the town center without costing the design agent.
Are we comfortable that if there were an RFP for the time property and the town center property, that this would convey our climate action wishes when what went to a developer?
Very broadly, particularly with the, I think, very broadly, in particular with the buildings and
Yes.
renewables.
Right.
We, of course, would want to be much more detailed in our recommendations. And even when we gave recommendations a year or so ago, those were very broad. Very broad.
There are many details that we could provide. I mean, they range from very simple, like orient the buildings in a way that one part of the roof faces south. That's pretty easy, right? That doesn't cost them anything. And then it ranges up to the more serious, which is passive house design standards.
And we would, I believe we should be addressing costs. I feel that there is a lot of anxiety about that. And I think maybe one of our roles as a committee is to do some solid research to show what the cost benefit is on this.
oh,
Yes,
the
yes.
cost
The,
benefit.
the upfront cost of the fairly minute difference in the upfront cost and the long-term savings. Because that is always going to come down to it, right? And it's work on our part. Unfortunately, as we don't have any solid ideas about what the project and the plan is, it's very hard to.
Well, maybe Jackie could at least say or give us. This plan that the last plan everybody kind of. Straw voted on. Is what we're thinking of as of now.
Mhm.
And then that would at least give us a point to jump off,
Yes.
to come up,
It seemed-
start working on
It
stuff.
struck me, and this is only my personal observation, she was not entirely pleased with the plan, with the design plan. And I got the sense that there were many things about it she didn't like. You know, the lack of pedestrian quality to the design, and many things.
Right.
And this is only my personal observation. I'm wondering if they will just be going back from to square one with the design. With
Hopefully
the
not
understanding,
Square one.
well,
We spent so
with the
much
understanding
money.
about what the town wants, but in
Right.
terms of the design itself.
Well, that gets tricky when, and I say it respectfully, how do you come up with a collective yes? Because I know she's in this authority position, but then she reports to the select board. Technically, the select board is supposed to report to the town people. So it's a very challenging, really hard process. Well, we'll see what she says. That's all we can do, go to them for direction.
So is there a specific action for us? I mean,
Well, the action is that I'm gonna pursue information on this. from Jackie. I may connect with Karen Strauss too. I know.
That's a good idea.
You do what?
I'll connect with Karen Strauss to see what I can learn regarding the tea time committee.
John, what you learn is for us, and we made this decision a long time ago, that for some of these things that we're not quite sure, or anything, the chair is the liaison to the town staff. The administrator, unless there's a reason somebody else has been delegated to do it, so we're not. 6 of us aren't bugging the person at the same time, so we're not avoiding things, but it's just the clearest way to maintain good communication. And it seems to work well, don't you think, Roberta?
Yes,
I mean, as far as not too many of us trying to have the same conversation with somebody.
all right, that's number 2. Now, the solar working group, I will pass the baton on to Tom here, who is heading up the solar working group for the committee.
And so I have just a couple of quick items to let everyone know about, and then we'll have a discussion on the workshop coming up. And John has done some work in terms of helping coordinate, and the whole working group really have been doing tremendous.
Who's on the working group now?
So it's right now, myself, John, Gary, Jack is on now, Roy, and Mike, and we'll be making a change shortly, because Mike is out for August. He's on travel for the rest of the month, so we'll have to, yeah.
So you don't haven't
So
made
I
that
don't have
decision
that
yet,
resolved yet, yeah.
but right now when you're meeting. It's
when we
3
meet,
staff,
it's 3
it's
staff.
3
Correct.
members, I just wanna.
Yep. Okay, so, we're looking at residential solar, we're looking at, municipal solar, and we're looking at commercial solar. And on the municipal side, I think we've made some good, progress meeting with Rich Bienvenu. Thanks to Roy for helping getting that set up. He was very interested in getting advocacy from the group and help and assistance with the groups. We've given him some recommendations on the CVEC RFP that's going out in the fall. He had 4 areas, and one was the DPW, which is not available because of the water project. The water treatment plant project will likely be down in that area. On the transfer station canopy, the police department roof, and the town hall roof, as well as potential some canopies. We gave some recommendations on that, gave some pictures of different canopies. Suggested that we put more, if possible, some more canopies at the transfer station than what was recommended, because that's a great place to put industrial looking, high canopies, and potentially in the back here and off on the side lot, with some smaller, more smaller canopies that would be more landscaped. So those are up for consideration. We met with CVAC along with Rich, supported him at that meeting. So that
Feedback is what again?
CVAC is the Cape and Vineyard.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
Cooperative.
same group, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, did you say net? Let's see that.
Yes. Yes, they were here on the 25th. For a site visit.
Oh, that's correct, yeah.
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 And so we,
The town
it's
staff.
right here, yeah.
Town staff
Yeah.
and several people.
Right, exactly. Okay, on the commercial side, Gary, do you want to say anything about commercial? I guess that's a difficult topic still.
It's a different animal altogether because. First of all, we don't know how many of our commercial businesses are building owned by the tenant or if they're renting from a landlord, so. It presents a challenge in terms of advocating for solar, because you may not be dealing with just one entity the tenant, you also have to. And of course, they have to be in agreement that this is something. So that's part of the challenge. There's other challenges, there's many challenges, actually. There are 330 businesses. In this 335. Part of the challenge I have in terms of outreach is that only 25% are members of the chamber. So we've got 67% out there, not members, that we have to get to, and. the
You said
outreach,
25%?
25%, just a little over 25%.
Okay.
So, Mr. Russo, the executive director of the chamber, thinks that we should do something like a forum, very much like we're doing for the residents. He would very much help us promote that insofar as we can. In putting together a forum just for the business owners. So, and we are making some headway in trying to determine how many businesses now use solar as a form of renewable energy. And it's been a little bit difficult identifying that too, but we now have the conservation department working with us to try and determine who are the businesses that have solar now. And it's important.
Did you say department or committee?
No, it's a department, conservation,
Okay, thanks.
and they're working.
Is
It's gonna
that
take some time.
town department?
Yeah, the town clerk office helped me with that. This- I asked her if that was part of their job, in staying on top of how many businesses.
Yeah.
have solar, it's not their job, they don't have those statistics at all. And, then they did a little bit of, research for me, and she found out that it is the conservation committee.
The committee or the department?
I'm sorry, the department, not conservation department that will determine that. for us. But it's
Okay,
gonna take some time. It's not, I think they have to go through all the permits.
yeah. Oh, sure.
That's what they've got to do to determine who has solar and who doesn't.
Mary, have you interacted with this individual at the conservation department?
No, just found out about today.
Oh,
I just
all
found out
right,
today.
okay, but that's something you want to pursue. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
On the residential side, I'll just mention quickly, to follow up to the COA meeting, we did have a meeting with one of the folks that was at the COA meeting and gave her recommendations. Actually, she invited Mike and I to her house and we got to take a look at our equipment and make some recommendations. I think that's a really good model to use. She was very happy with having that assistance. And we've got a piece in the COA newsletter coming up, which I guess gets sent out.
1st of September, end of August.
Isn't it first?
It's every 2 months, so it'll be September, October.
Yeah, okay. And we have some ideas that we've been collecting on topics. So it's only a very small, like 4-sentence piece that we can put in that Dorothy can fit. But I think that'd be great. So something we can talk about later. To rotate amongst the different folks who are interested in writing, a topic for the bi-monthly
So
newsletter.
you're saying it wouldn't be, you wouldn't keep on the topic of solar.
Correct.
You would want to interchange it with.
Right. Energy
decarbonizing.
efficiency,
Right.
decarbonizing, yeah, all those
Composting.
composting, yes, yeah, all of that.
So
So,
we have 6 opportunities,
right,
because it's every other month. So,
right,
but we're fortunate, I think, to even get an inch or 2 that we're getting, because in the past, that hasn't. I don't know if any other committee has thought that. Do you know what I mean? Because, and so because they're interested in their sponsoring the coffee for us, and they're willing to sponsor other events, I think that's how we're able to be welcomed into the newsletter.
and a great opportunity for outreach here.
Yeah.
So, is the outreach group still,
I am the
outreach
outreach
group
group at the moment.
here's some ideas. I
And
can
when
e-
we're
I can
ready, we
email
need
that to you, and then I don't know what the right mechanism would be to get, volunteers to write a piece, sign up for.
Well, we're good for a little while, so. I
Yeah,
think we'll look
yeah.
at this, but I don't know when you want to talk about the monthly coffee.
That either now or at the outreaches.
Yeah, we'll talk about that outreach.
Okay, very good. And then the big event is the solar working group, so.
But we don't really hear an outreach, do we?
So
But yeah, it's there. Okay, so
Okay, so the solar workshop, we did meet with Debbie Abbott and Terry Gallagher. Got some good feedback on what they were interested in, and,
they are, who are they?
oh, good question. So the Debbie Abbott is the director of the Friends of the Library.
she's the
President,
chair,
okay,
president.
Chair, was the right term. She had asked Terry Gallagher to also participate in the discussions.
And he was, what's his role? He's with the,
It's a member of the Friends.
no, but he's also a
He's also-
liaison to the, a rep to something with
Right.
To the
mission.
Barnstable County
There's no way delegates.
delegates, yes.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the East Ham representative of the delegate. group. Anyway,
So
Okay.
if anyone wants to dive into details on what they gave, I certainly have that info, we can discuss that separate. Or, any questions as we go through the overall goals and objectives, kind of interspersed there, but I thought, let's get to the meat of the matter and John.
Well,
passed
is
out
this announcement for the workshop a summary what they're looking for?
What?
Isn't this the Debbie Abbott funded show?
So Debbie will have, or the Friends could have some money to do a few items. But
Right,
let's first discuss what we all want the event to be. Right,
okay,
and let's see if we've got all the key items. I think it's important that we get get the committees
Okay.
thinking, right, on the kind of the top level outline. And then from there, we have a start at the agenda. I think we probably have at least another conversation on that coming up. We've probably spent a good amount of time so far going through some different ideas. So rather than spend an hour on that here, let's talk the high level, and
Okay.
then we'll go off and get that done for y'all, and we'll get back to you. So go ahead, John.
So, yeah, you've all got a one page in front of you, which is an outline of our thinking basically at this point about this event. And we've got a date, we've got October the 28th locked down now, and we've got effectively 3 productive hours at the library from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For this event. Plus, we're proposing to do make house tours available to people after that 1 p.m. terminates, after people leave the library. So we have what we think is a creative and interesting idea to identify a series of homes where people have renewable energy systems of various sorts in place. And we can bring folks around to have a look and see these systems in action and talk to their owners and what have you. So the goal is summarized here of the event in its entirety. We're really trying to keep this focused on residents and on making what they're exposed to through this event apply, and putting it in terms that they can apply. So providing them with information, but also a fair amount of kind of how-to material and information is what we're after with this. And so we want to make sure that they are able to learn about the various types of options that are available to them, whether you're talking about purchasing or leasing or community solar, which will probably be a new term to most folks that in our audience, I expect. So getting the sorts of basic terms out to people so they understand, and then bringing in local experts to help people really understand the nuts and bolts. Almost literally the nuts and bolts of what systems could be installed, what's the terminology they're going to encounter, what kinds of financial options are available to them, whether you're talking about incentives or you're talking about financing itself. And then again, having a component of the workshop where people can actually be walked through a kind of checklist or a worksheet and answer questions for themselves for their own home situations to help determine if a solar installed rooftop system would be a good option. If so, to start getting the very basic information you need, like how many panels would you require, Would you be looking at something, would you be likely to purchase, or would you be likely to lease? And so we envision having a session where people can walk through that kind of process and walk out the door with something in their hands that would be a first start to actually committing to a system. So hearing firsthand from East Ham residents, we see as a big selling point for this event generally. This isn't just a come see some experts, talk to you. This is an event where you can actually interact with your colleagues. And then top it off by taking a home tour to see the systems in action. So that's the plan. And as Tom indicated, we've been working very hard to figure out how to accomplish all of these things within the time that we have available. But we think we're on a decent track for that. So, thoughts?
I love the idea that it's your neighbors that are telling you about this as opposed to a vendor.
Mhm.
People, even though they're very knowledgeable, people might not trust that situation. It's their business. But the idea that it's your neighbors and your East Ham folks that are sharing this information, that they're all very knowledgeable and want to lend a hand. Understanding, I think that's a really great concept.
Mhm.
I wondered what you were thinking about promotion of this event.
We have the COA as one venue. We have Windmill Weekend, right? I don't know what the timing is in terms of materials that are required for doing something with Windmill Weekend, but this committee has a table, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a table.
Yeah,
So we can have whatever, we can have a version of this available, I think, at the table. We've also got the survey that we've done. We did a dry run effectively of the COA that we can have. That's not
to include it.
workshops
but no, yeah.
specific, but include it.
And I did put a note about the date for the workshop in that COA article.
And just let you know, Jim Russo. Told me that anything we want to promote, he'll send out through his business newsletter. So that involves not only business buds, but individuals can sign up for it too. So he'll be more than glad. He does it, he
So
lasts
long as
once
it's
or
lots
twice
of,
a week.
Lead time for that. They also have a events page on their website. And I used that when I first promoting the events last fall. I don't know who really lives at it, but it was there. It's just one more avenue. It seems like there needs to be a lot of different.
What about the library itself?
Library, yeah,
The library will help promote it. The
Yeah.
newsletter, the newspapers still do. A press release, or they might even be willing to want to do a little story or.
the,
And specifically Terry said no to ads, because we had come up with a list of items that perhaps if they were interested, they could help pay for. But what he wanted to do was have well-written articles, substantial articles put together. Now, he's done articles, I guess he is a
translator.
is he a translator?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he mentioned that he also does some level of journalism, so I think he'd be willing to help out in that.
Yeah, I mean, promo's gotta be a huge part of this. I think it's successful.
One thing we may want to note for this group is that we have talked about having a keynote speaker and trying to get somebody who could put butts in the seats, if you will. But we've, at this moment, decided maybe not to go that route to preserve enough time for the hands-on stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we've done a lot of keynote stuff. I think. Letting people
So
come
he's
in.
comfortable with that.
I mean,
we started out thinking big, like Harvey Leonard, someone that everyone would know.
well, no, it's not that. I just
but-
see this workshop is to really help people get down and dirty. And
Okay. You think that might detract from it?
I think it's kind of two separate, I don't know if there's enough time with only 3 hours.
And that's the other issue we've kind of shoehorned in, because there is something at the library every Saturday in the fall at 2 o'clock. So we have to be out of there. We have to be wrapping up around 1 and be out of there at 1:30.
And on various locations. That's a kind of a
Right.
follow-up thing, which is a cool idea. Are you gonna need more volunteers, do you think? Do
Yes.
you need to recruit
Yes.
more people for the day of?
Yes.
Yeah, That's a great opportunity for people who have been interested in getting
Mm.
involved.
It'd be very interesting if folks like the Green Club.
Yeah.
Right.
When they're back in school
Mhm.
and right, additional folks, if you folks are, interested.
Maybe
We
the
would
thing
absolutely
is-
love to have,
Write up something about that. Once you've got that.
yeah, yeah.
Here are opportunities that day to, A, learn about solar, B, be part of the community, and
Oh,
connect. with
that's a great
others.
idea.
Well, the folks also who are showing their houses, they'll be volunteering, we'll be
Right.
getting
Yes,
some of them,
yeah.
right? Not just the regular standard
Right.
folks, but other folks.
And we'd sure like to find folks that have, we already know some folks that own,
Mhm.
but we'd like to get some folks that maybe subscribe to community solar. And someone that leases their arrays. So if anyone knows of folks in those categories, that would sure be a big help.
So when you're talking about a workshop, maybe I'm getting too practical. You're gonna have more than one workshop at a time or multiple? I mean, we got the big room is what we got, right?
We have multiple groups,
Oh, we do at the library.
so we can do breakouts.
Okay. So we're gonna break out on more than one topic?
We're still discussing that. We still are kind of weighing the pros and cons of doing that and whether we need.
Or just say we got these 3 rooms, so 6 people, 6 people, 6 people.
No. This would be more like anyone interested in owning, purchasing,
yeah.
go to this. Anyone interested in the community solar, go to that. room.
That's what I meant, okay.
That would.
So you are thinking about doing that,
It's
breaking up by topic?
possible.
Yeah.
John, what's the source of the 6 to 8 years?
That's the calculations that Mike and I have done.
And what do you peg it to?
It's the electric rates versus the, what you would pay out of pocket for the installation and how much you would make in net metering and smart credits.
When you get a estimate from a solar vendor, generally they all show how your upfront cost is this after your federal tax credits and so on. And then what the cost is, your cost savings over 6 months. And then I don't know if they use anything as sophisticated as net present value, probably not. But anyway, it's then it's, you see your bottom line and where that is. That is kind of rule of thumb, 6 to 8
Yeah.
years. And
Used to be 20,
yeah.
but it's
I know.
substantially changed.
Well, the tax credits, I'm sure.
Tax credits, so 1/3, you get back right away. And tax credits, assuming you have a tax liability.
Right, assuming you have that tax liability,
And
so
we have to make that clear,
we gotta be, when
Yeah.
we talk about economic justice and everything.
right?
And then there's the SMART program too, which
Right.
also adds a little icing to the cake. And I don't know if that's still in effect, the SMART program,
It is.
It is.
Yeah. where you get a check from Eversource
Yes.
for any excess energy you produce.
So just, we will not be having any vendors here.
Correct.
That's the safest bet, I think.
But I think a long list of possibilities would be in order.
There are sites that vet installers that are paid for by the state and EPA. We have a list of folks currently, vendors currently on the Cape. Mike did a fairly extensive list on that as well. So I think between the two of those, that would help. My concern is that if we put up a list on our website, we have to keep it up to date constantly. I'd rather point to this other company called Energy Saves.
We just don't have.
So everybody, there's not gonna be computer access.
Right.
So I
And
think
we help them.
we
Yeah.
need to have some paper.
Yes.
Are we still thinking of doing the computation sheet?
Yes.
That we could do?
That would be one of the.
Mike's,
The
Mike's,
third one, right?
Yes.
you talking about Mike's, write-up?
That was the intent, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Mike couldn't be here today, so we put on hold a discussion of that sheet until he could be here.
In September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's Mike's write-up and then there's sort of the worksheet component of that, which
Right,
yeah, is what was intended to be used during the workshop. But still, I just we have to walk through it when he's back.
Right, well, in terms of the document itself.
Yeah,
And what we're
right.
gonna do with it.
Right.
Do you think we would have the opportunity to use the town's email blast?
I think so, yeah.
It's a big enough
probably.
event.
Yes.
Hmm.
But we need some solid planning on this problem.
Hmm,
Because there's a lot of opportunities to be had, but if you wait too long, those opportunities go by. And so it's 2 months out, a little more, right? I was also thinking the non-residents taxpayers association, they
Yes.
have a newsletter. And they
Yes.
probably have deadlines for that, so that would be a really important one to get into.
Do you think we could have one artifact that we could use in most of these places for most of these venues?
I think that's a great
That'd be
idea.
ideal.
That would be
Something like,
key.
like a one pager, like this, something close to this.
And Corey said that he would put together a nice graphic for this. And yeah, I mean, if you think this is, a good representation of what we want to do. He'll take this and make it into a very nice graphic for us.
I don't know.
Right, and he tends to not want as much text on it.
Yeah.
It's very visual,
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
does.
yeah.
So you might want to think about
Okay.
where any additional information you want.
Who's Corey?
He is the IT,
Well, he's one of the librarians.
right, but he's also a technology
Oh, okay,
staff person at the library.
at the library.
He does all
He's
the
the younger,
promos.
smart.
He-
Whippersnapper.
All the really great flyers you see promoting an event, he produces.
Okay,
And he does TikTok and Facebook Live. He's doing all these cool things there.
can we engage him like now? I mean,
Yes.
Talk about this. Okay, good.
He can give you ideas. too.
He'll probably give you an idea how to do this.
That's what I was
Particularly how
thinking.
you're gonna connect with people online with this.
Right.
That's.
Yeah, we'll get it on Facebook.
Have you talked with Corey about doing a Zoom session?
I just talked to Devin about that.
What do you
And
think?
he said yes.
Okay.
Oh, we'll
So we're
also
gonna
be doing it on
details, do it
Zoom.
on Zoom. We'll work out details on how we do that. So Devin had some ideas and can comment. And I think that will help with the part-time residents who couldn't be here or anyone who, maybe is not
Right.
accessible that way.
So we might need to have one Zoom session. Breakout room, at least to be able to, maybe we put all these topics together. You know how you're gonna do breakout for individual and everything like that,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the breakout would be tough. That's good.
but there'll have to be at least one. Maybe it's more of a all together. Cause I don't think you're gonna have Zoom in each of the workshops.
Yeah, well, I mean, the committee will.
Yeah.
Working group will co-pack and take, the recommendation. And we'll firm up the agenda from there.
I think Erpta's got one more meeting now. They have one in the fall.
Who?
Erpta,
Oh, okay,
for Time Residents Association.
part-time people.
Mm. I can find out from my wife. She knows the president.
All right.
With, if they're doing a meeting before the workshop, do you think it would be useful
All
to have a
right. To the end.
10 minutes or something?
Remind me again. if I
Have someone
forget.
speak at that.
Yeah, let me see.
That'd be great.
I'll ask. My wife to get in touch with the president of the association and let you know what would be.
That would be great. So any other changes on this, recommendations?
No, there's-
So I think what we'd like is do we need to vote on doing a workshop?
No, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, just to make sure that we're all together on this. So
So I'll move then to hold a solar workshop on the 28th of October at the library. And we'll call it Enlightened Living Solar Workshop for Eastern residents with details summary on this sheet.
I second it.
I,
I,
Unanimous.
Aye.
We have an event on October 28th. Put it on your calendars. It's gonna be
it
an
is, I
exciting
just
day.
put it on my
Yeah.
phone.
I think it's a really exciting idea. And I think it's gonna be well attended, especially if we can.
Good.
Yeah. All right,
We got a bunch of interesting stuff to go work on from here. So that's great.
Maybe,
That one is good.
Maybe the friends will be willing to provide the little snacks and refreshments.
Say-
Like,
oh, that'd be great. What? Yes,
they said, no, I see them doing it for other things.
They said, go get it donated.
really?
What do they want to spend their money on? No, I'm not being facetious.
Let's talk after this.
Okay.
I'll mention quickly that just to wrap up the solar discussion that there is interest in from Rich about having us starting to look ahead for the next year's solar, that he would like to, do another round of solar next year. And there's a couple different options. I mean, the use, what we were recommending is the use of the additional space on the Cap landfill, I think would be very, very useful. If we can do that. There's questions on the permitting process there and the cost of putting the big concrete blocks on there. So I was gonna work with look at the south facing shore slope of that. There's also the potential for more carport type canopy solar. The trade-off there is that can it be built in a way that is kind of Eastham friendly in the character of the town? So I do have some pictures, we can talk about that later. The other is that we don't have a lot of brown fields at this point. So if anyone has ideas on fields and areas that could be used, that would be really helpful. The one that we end up kind of thinking back to is the partially cleared lot by the north water well.
The new one.
So it's up by the Rooster Sand and Gravel, a little bit. north
No,
of
the
that.
one near my house. The one off Nauset Road.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
original.
COA, yeah.
No, not the
brand
one
new
in the
one that's-
COA. He's
Oh.
talking about the original one.
Yes, the
If
one,
he's talking Brewster Sand and Gravel, that's the
Yes.
original one.
yeah, there's a massive pit there and just north of that, Rooster Sand and Gravel is dug.
You know, it's kind of near where he wanted to do it before.
Yeah, it's partially.
Do you remember
cleared.
where we walked before? It's not all that,
I see.
it's the same neck of the woods. It may be a different part of the woods.
Right.
It's where the dirt is.
Yeah,
Just
I
as
mean,
I walk around.
it's a tricky topic because,
It was not well received last time.
Correct.
well, there was only one person that discussed at a town meeting, right? And we didn't get a big discussion, I think.
Right.
So it's a tricky topic because if you don't want to cut trees down,
We don't.
but there's a lot of trees being cut down for a lot of stuff right
Well,
now.
there's varied opinions on this,
Yeah. I
given
know,
within
I
the
know.
group.
So it's something to think about. Mike and I are doing some looks at what's the, you don't want to cut trees down, but is there a trade-off in terms of greenhouse gas sequestration versus solar production? Right, so there's one question. Are there options for continuing vegetation like pollinators and native plants? There's another thing that EPA is looking at to encourage that and not just completely strip it and put concrete or rocks or stuff. So there's a whole bunch of things, and I think that would be a good healthy debate to have to see. if,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What's in the art of the feasible. Okay, I'm sorry, so that's that.
Okay, so solar, that's great job.
Right,
Really
you
exciting
guys
things
are
going on.
really working hard.
You are. Okay, so the next two is something that I'd like to share. We've in this group discussed quite a bit about how a number of towns are moving to adopt through town meeting an additional specialized opt-in code that brings a town towards greater electrification in new buildings, new construction only. The stretch code is something that all the towns on the Cape have, including Eastham. The specialized code, of course, brings the electrification of the buildings closer to reality, although it is not forced upon a builder. It makes sense for a builder once the credits, the federal tax credits and so on are enforced. Anyway, as we know, Truro has passed it, Wellfleet has passed it, and Orleans is their climate action committee has presented this to the select board. the, the creation of a town warrant article. Okay, for the opt-in program. The select board has agreed to sponsor it in 4 months. They have their town meeting in October. I think this is a really great opportunity for us to connect with Orleans on this. In the sense of watching how they communicate on this. And thinking through how, if we as a group decide that we want to promote this with the town and ask for the article, that we perhaps see how Orleans does and perhaps follow suit. So the opportunity to learn about that is Tuesday, October 22nd at the Snow Library. 2 speakers, Roger
October
McDaniel.
October
Yes,
22nd?
Tuesday, August 22nd.
Oh,
at
August.
August 40. Tuesday, August 22nd at 4 o'clock at the Snow Library. Roger McDaniel and Martin Kulik, who are members of the Energy and Climate Action Committee members, will be making a presentation on the opt-in specialized energy code, as well as home energy choices. So they're adding that element to the presentation as well. This is their public information piece before their town meeting in October. They also plan a number of building zero energy standard building programs at the library in the fall. I was talking to the Orleans Climate Action Network individual who's working with this town committee in Orleans, thinking that maybe there might be some synergy for us and that we might even include Roger and Martin in a program here in Eastham. But I haven't progressed that far yet. And I think that I'm going to this one on Tuesday. It would be great if anyone else would show up. That would be fabulous to kind of see where we can sort of fit into this and how it can help us progress on this. So there's that. Olaf attended one in July. Roger did this in July at the Snow Library, and I haven't had a chance to connect with Olaf because we've all been busy. But it'll be interesting to see what he says about that. He's
Can I take a picture?
sure.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So.
So that's this coming Tuesday.
Yes. Yes,
What time is it?
4 o'clock. I can send out the flyer to you.
Great, great.
That leads up to another thing I wanted to talk to you about. There has been a Cape-wide climate town committee, climate action network group of people who have developed an idea called Decarbonize Cape Cod. And it's a Cape-wide effort to promote the specialized opt-in code. And it's passing in various towns, and B, to help people understand how they can decarbonize their homes. So it's on residents and businesses as well. And they're just getting off the ground. As you can see, they already have a logo, Decarbonize Cape Cod. Right now, their focus is this fall is to kind of create a kind of a grassroots outreach where they want to find ways to connect with people besides the usual ways, like watching a webinar or attending a town meeting or going to a public event. They're trying to find ways to connect people with these ideas through more of a playful or celebratory way. That could be some of the ideas they have is maybe an Oktoberfest celebration, a decarbonize, whatever. Anyway, they're really just kind of forming their ideas, and they've got a planning team. Barry, who is the head of this, Barry Margolin in Yarmouth, has pressed me to see if we could have someone from Eastham on that planning committee. I appeal to you today to see if there's anyone who would like to get involved in that. I think it's a pretty cool idea that we could bring down to Eastham as well. I could myself personally get involved, maybe the first couple meetings, but it would be great if somebody on our committee or even volunteers could get involved in that. I've often said that you're always preaching to the choir, you know, the public events, the webinars, blah, 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 blah. There are so many people you don't reach. What are some better ways of doing it? And I like that approach. So. Any thoughts on A? Is it a good idea?
Great.
Is it something we need to do in Eastham, get involved in this, or?
Well, let's see what they're, you know, how they get rolling here, and are they really gonna have an impact? That might determine how much we tie in with them. Where are they located?
Well, everywhere.
It's all at Cape Cod. It's part of the Cape Cod can, like a subgroup
Right.
That's right.
of Cape Cod
Cool.
can,
Right.
okay? So they kind of like have their, now this separate work, a part of working group that
Would
they're.
they like to send someone to our meetings?
I don't think that they're far along enough. They were really trying to
They're
get.
trying to get, I
representatives
think,
from every town to
representatives
get
from all the
involved.
towns to
Right. He
be
told me,
part of this planning committee,
he
right?
told me the chair of the Wellfleet Climate Action Committee and the chair of the Chatham Committee have agreed to be part of the planning committee, at least initially. So they've committed to that. And then he sort of made me feel like, oh, well, maybe we ought to be doing something. Yeah. So, I guess I'm polling, is there anyone who might want to find out more about it, might want to work with me on this? Don't speak.
Find out more, of course.
Yeah. I'll pursue it with Olaf. And with Mike. And I will also follow up with Barry, letting him know that we talked about this at our meeting. We are interested, but we're not quite sure yet how we are going to proceed. Does that make sense?
I mean, partly our solar workshop is an event.
Yeah. So we're gonna be quite.
Because we're
busy
gonna
for
make
this
it
few months
fun,
here, yeah.
and so they're looking for different ways, well. I mean,
Right.
It may
They're
not be in
looking to do it
October.
under this umbrella.
So I think we want to know, I want to know, you know, more than the blurb, let's
Right.
see how this develops and
Right.
let's see.
Okay.
So they want to do it under their name.
Yes. Yes. And that it's a Cape-wide effort. It's not just the little individual towns, it's a larger effort, kind of like the effort to create the declarations of climate
Yes.
emergencies in every single town. It's the same concept. All of these climate action committees and networks working together for the same purpose in their own time.
Right. But
Yeah.
we didn't use one, we didn't have to, like, say, unite under one logo,
But we did in a
Yes.
way, didn't we?
but it went to every town
True,
separate.
true, but it
That's
was
what
the
I'm
same logo and the same language.
I mean, could
Yeah.
we give them space, or would there be any room for them with us at Windmill Weekend? That's a festive event. I know they're trying to find other ways.
Right, and I think it's so early, they're not even prepared to do that
Okay.
at this point.
Okay, no worries.
But I'll connect with Barry, tell him that we've talked about this, we need to tiptoe into this a bit, and
Yeah.
I will,
Put it that way, I think we
Yeah.
definitely want to know.
right.
They don't
that's
know
what
what they're
we're saying.
doing yet,
Right.
we don't know what we're committing to
Right.
yet, so we're very interested.
Well,
in
they want
finding
us to
ways-
commit to being part of the initial planning group.
Ah.
That's what they want. They want us to,
Well, as a
They
committee,
want
I'm
us to show up,
be,
they want us to show, they want East Town to show up. Whatever that might mean.
You said Wellfleet and who admitted?
He let me know that both the chair of the Wellfleet Committee and the chair of the Chatham Committee have committed to being part of the planning event, at least initially. I'll follow up with them. We're running out of time, unfortunately. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We just got a little. So some of these things we've already covered. We've covered the fall solar upcoming events. Fall solar workshop, we're done with that.
Mhm.
Do you guys want to give a quick recap of what went on in July at COA?
I think we should jump to Windmill Weekend first. I mean, I'm concerned about time.
Sure.
yeah, we also need to at least
the-
mention the Seaside Cafe.
Yeah.
And we need to get volunteers and maybe signups.
But we have a little more, why don't you go to, I'm just looking at dates, we should
Oh,
talk
dates,
about
right.
Windmill Weekend first,
Oh, that's
because
good.
we will meet.
We'll meet before the next, yeah, before that, seems like, that's a good point.
So you all, whoever said they were gonna help coordinate that, turn it over to you guys for Windmill Weekend.
Well, I think the coordination was, and Gary did a great job here, we have a table in the municipal tent, right, with, right next to the recycling committee, or at least in the vicinity, and keep like contact as well.
Oh, they're gonna let
So-
Keep Light come under the municipal tent?
I mean,
They're gonna have a big tent first?
Supposedly,
Because last year you brought your tent,
Right, because we want it to be off by the road.
right? So we're
Yeah,
not
right
doing
on
that,
the
okay.
tent. So I think it's worthwhile being in Big Tent. I think it's a great idea.
No, yeah,
town to
that's great.
Yeah, so with that, that initial layout is done. I think we hand it back to the outreach group. I mean, in terms of how we plan the next steps.
Well,
what
not
we-
to be defend. There was 2 or 3 who agreed to coordinate this event. So I kind of didn't, no, seriously, I thought the people who agreed to coordinate the event
Yeah.
were the people
exactly.
coordinating the event.
Yeah.
I didn't see outreach always coordinating each event.
Oh,
If we got people who are because I had said for myself, this was one event I couldn't coordinate.
okay.
Right, and what we left in the minutes was it was you, myself, and Mike that were willing to coordinate the Windmill Weekend. And I don't, we're not talking rocket science.
No, I
We're
think
looking
what's
for
left is
handouts.
getting the volunteers and handouts. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So I think in this
Mike
meeting,
has the magnets.
Yeah.
Did he do that on his own?
no, he coordinated it with everybody and then I gave him the final.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
He is donating that, right?
we're gonna,
You're gonna talk to him
we're
about that.
working it out.
Okay,
It's.
so we got the magnets.
And
And,
then we'll work on some handouts.
okay,
We'll work on some physical things to
have-
make the whole thing more comfortable. And I don't know what else we can do. We'll have our sign up sheet.
you got the banner, you got those handouts,
We
right?
have the handouts that we used at the COA. I put a QR code on it. We have the survey, right? That's your updated survey. I would recommend we use these. You know what?
What are tables? Do we
Is
have
the
to bring our
town
own tables?
providing tables or are we?
That's a good question. Do we? No,
Last time,
Mike brought tables.
do you remember Cheryl? Because you were involved last year.
We brought tables
Okay,
last
so
year
we need tables, a table or two
Handouts.
and the banner.
in the
Banner.
banner.
Anybody seen the magnet?
Picture of-
No. I've seen a picture of it.
so
Yeah.
Oh, the picture.
It's pretty innocuous.
That'll be our swag, right?
Yeah.
If we wanted to do anything more for swag, what's?
But we have people like Compact who has so much swag.
That's right.
That's why we
Yeah.
sit next to them.
Our hope is just to connect with people as they come by, talk to them about.
We'll have a
Our-
sign up sheet
sorry.
again, like
Right.
we did last year. We've got a bunch of names from that.
No, it's a one-day affair, and so,
The parade's the next day.
right, so
Okay.
they'll, it'd be great to have two people there at one
Yeah.
time. Is there anyone here who would be willing to give a couple hours?
I can do early, I can help set up and I can do a couple of hours. I just need to leave. It starts around 9, right?
Right, you'd like to do the morning,
Is that what it is, 9?
I have to leave by 11 because I have to go home, get ready.
so 9 to 11,
Is it like?
Or it's either 9 to 11, or we might have to be there at 8, but whatever is needed to help set up, I can do
Oh,
that.
okay.
so John, would you?
And I
the
can help
afternoon?
set up.
PM like after lunch?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's the date again?
It's the 9th, the Saturday after Labor Day.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
So that'll be what,
We can be clearer then about terms of the hours and everything.
whichever.
Which is basic, yeah.
Join afternoon coverage.
Let's do it. Okay. Right. All right, so quickly moving on. COA? Anything you
Well,
want
the
to say?
COA Seaside Cafe. Somehow we were assigned the 4th Monday of the month, which like I told you personally, Monday is not a day.
Right.
For me to do coffee
Right.
on Monday mornings, but at the moment,
That's all
They-
Dorothy had. Yeah, that's what she wanted.
so they do this coffee every several days a week at 9 AM, right, to 10. So we've been assigned the fourth Monday of each month to be able to be available and to do kind of one-on-one outreach.
Yeah, I think we have like a couple people there.
I think a couple of us are there with some of this information and worksheets and whatever we want. It's very casual, it's an hour. We'll try it for a couple of months if we think
Yeah,
it's not working. Being advertised that we're gonna be there, I hope maybe we get recycling involved with us there too.
It's a great idea.
If they want
Yeah.
to join us. And it's just, it's really old grassroots outreach. Go where they are and chat with them about what they want to chat about.
Perfect.
Do you want to talk about the July 14th?
Can we just,
Sorry.
who will do September?
I can do that one.
Do you want, do you think we need more than one?
Let's get 2 people there.
Okay.
Anyone else interested in that date?
Oh, we
That's-
got one right here.
Right.
Lovely quasi member.
I'll pay for your coffee.
You gonna, don't be bringing the beer to the senior center, okay? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Go ahead. You want to talk about the
Recap
event?
about July 14th, you want to recap lessons learned, what the triumphs were, what were some of the downfalls?
I think we had a very energized group, and I think a lot of, what we got back from them was interest in getting more information. So a lot of that has been worked into the solar workshop. And they're very interested in getting, I'll say, hands-on support,
Mhm.
right? Not just, tell me about who I can go see, because they're very very industrial, I'll say, right, in terms of having to go talk to somebody or go through all kinds of websites. So they're really looking for folks who can help them through it and advocate for them.
We had somebody who was there.
That's a good point. Yeah, when did you think?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was really great. I had questions afterwards that I wanted to get to you, or that I haven't gotten to you, so I'd like to. I'm gonna just send emails to the committee. Is that right? Okay, that's perfect. That was really good. I would emphasize that, and I would have available that email. Just email us, just email us. I think that's even better than the,
Here's how you reach us.
yeah, that's it, because a lot of people I've talked to had felt very, very frustrated in that beforehand. And so it was really great, but where to go? You know, that it just meant to us, you know what I mean, just from that point of view. So the emphasizing the phone, or a phone number or whatever, or the email is very, very.
Yeah, I mean, what might have worked was a follow-up email to the people that were there.
Do we have, let's see, there was a sign sheet, wasn't there?
Who took it? I didn't take it. Did you take it?
I don't remember.
That's a good point.
I have the survey.
Yeah,
That has email addresses.
it does have, do we ask for emails on this?
We did a sign-in sheet and asked for emails if they wanted to give it.
Oh, where that went to.
But you have the addresses from the surveys,
I don't think it's all,
but some.
yes.
I'll look to see if.
Maybe we did.
Sign in sheet, but
Maybe we didn't. I thought we did a sign-in sheet. But we can at least take them from the surveys.
That's something.
I mean, that's the thing, and we'll get people to help us. This is really gonna be hands-on, fill out the worksheet.
Yeah, I mean, I attended that event and I had a really good feel to it. I have noticed that what really seemed to work is allowing every individual to say what climate change meant to them.
Right.
I feel that people really connect as a group when they get an opportunity, individually, if they want to share. That seems to really work well. And it's a good starting point when you're starting to talk about all this stuff. Is, oh yeah, this is the reason we're doing this. This is the
Right.
reason we're talking about solar and decarbonization. bring it back, you know?
I think it's a great idea to do a follow-up email,
Uh,
letting them know about this workshop.
Okay, can I move on to other business?
Yeah.
Tom, you want to share what you know about the ZB event on Tuesday, August 15th?
Well, I think that one is something that Gary brought up. Might mention that was at the BMW,
That's tomorrow.
right? And they are holding a sort of a public, come on in and a number of different EV manufacturers, I think are gonna be there. So stop down and see what's kind of.
Yeah, they're gonna do test drives.
Oh, they are test drive, nice.
It's not just BMW?
Oh, it's good for you. Yeah, it's Mazda, it's Jeep, it's you know, there's about 5 different brands.
Sponsored by the dealers, right? What about this One Cape Summit? You want to report on that, you guys? Both of you went to that.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well,
Remind us,
Like day one. I don't want to go.
remind us of what that was.
So the One Cape Summit is sponsored by the Cape Cod Commission, and it is the 1-year big event for planning and municipal leaders and folks that are working with the municipalities to come together and talk about issues facing the Cape. And this year, the two issues that they highlighted were climate and housing. The housing was fascinating. We can talk about that some other time. It was very interesting. The climate I thought was very good also. So Rebecca Pepper was there, who is the climate administrator for the state, yeah. For Governor Healy, as well as Bonnie Keppel, who is Mass Department of Environmental Protection. So I actually got to talk to both of them. It was very interesting. Rebecca mentioned MVP 2.0 is about to be released. That's the municipal vulnerability protection. Is that what it is? Plan, municipal vulnerability plan. So that's coming out with some grants. They mentioned the Solar for All competition and grant coming out of the EPA. This is a really good one that, in fact, we were talking about difficulties with finding out what's available or not through websites, solar, and it's crazy. So I spent several hours today trying to figure out what are the loan opportunities for solar. And apparently the state loan program went away.
Did it?
Yeah,
And
so.
that zero
Yeah.
interest.
And, however, Massachusetts released, and I have a copy of it, their proposal for the grant that they will be getting a significant amount of money from the feds. And it will include loans for environmental justice communities, no interest loans. And I'm thinking if it works out right, if it's like a 7 or 8 year loan, then essentially instead of paying the utility bill, you're paying the loan. About the same amount of money. And then at the end of 7 or 8 years, you're done and it's all extra money that you have. So that's very interesting. They have coastal resiliency grants coming out. They just announced another slug of coastal resiliency. And if anyone knows Jane Crowley, I don't. Jane was highlighted as the awardee for this year's One Cape award.
Jane just retired as our health agent,
Oh, that's okay.
the head of
So-
our health department. She
Yeah.
recently retired.
Yeah, so if you know her, congratulate her. She got the One Cape Award this year for the work that she did with the water resources and the water system in East Hampton. So those are kind of the highlights. So and a lot of good stuff on EV data, EV charging and information and how to get access and surveys on
So is any of the information presented going to be available to the public?
They
or-
said, yeah, so I haven't seen that yet, but I'll let you know as soon as that is.
Yeah, really
I'll
interested
forward
in
it.
the housing. So
Yeah, it was very interesting. They over and over again, what they said was on the Cape, and they brought someone in from Vail, Colorado. Who was in a similar situation and said, you
Yeah.
know, if you look at the numbers, it doesn't look like we have a housing crisis, we have an occupancy crisis. with all these buildings that are not occupied much of the year. So. Anyway,
Also, the breakout rooms are great. They're- I think
Right,
they're-
it's always the best.
they're-
Yeah.
They really have some. interesting breakout rooms.
We've been actually met too.
Two speakers in each breakout room.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Short, you know, 15 minutes. It's great.
All right, I guess that wraps up our agenda.
Did you have a question?
Just a brief question, I to this, which I think is wonderful, but I noticed how you have this, you're focusing on newbies, new to, solar panels. But I just feel that there's a number of people who have leased panels, and I know I have leased panels and can now think of purchasing them. How do I move on? Are there loans for this? I mean, but I know you don't, you got a single focus here, but that is also a comment that can come up from the community
yeah,
to be prepared for that, because I wonder about loans for this.
Well, we are talking about leasing there too, so that's a good thing. for you to
Yeah,
think about.
Definitely should be on
Yeah.
the agenda.
Yeah, no, I.
How to transfer from lease to
How to
ownership.
transfer to
That's
lease to
great.
homeowner, or is it worth it, or, you know,
Yeah.
like the advantages, disadvantages.
So that's a great point.
it's a very good question.
Yeah. Because that's what I'm,
In fact,
experiencing.
if you were interested in talking at the, of your experience at workshop,
You want to be on the tour?
love to get someone or on tour, yeah. That'd be wonderful.
Jack, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I've taken a lot of notes, and I'll follow up, I email with you with.
Great.
Thank you.
One other quick thing, we saw at the library, there's a
Yeah.
presentation on the 26th, Resilient Cape Cod. On climate.
You know, it's because it's the climate awareness thing from CREW. And they're a member of CREW about, I forget what CREW stands for, climate,
okay,
it's about
Resilient.
climate resilient emergencies.
Yes.
So the library is a member of CREW, and that week is, I just, cause I get CREW emails, they're doing a big climate,
yeah. that's
Week.
great.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And, but that's what that's about, because they're tied in with CREW.
And they're bringing in an expert.
From Woods Hole.
Yeah, Woods Hole, yeah,
No,
very interesting.
it is. Yeah, you kind of think maybe we should be coordinating a little bit more on this time, but I don't, I mean, it's all good. What they're doing is great.
Well, I think it's
But
because they're doing it with CREW.
Which is funny.
Well, I did talk, Corey mentioned, Corey mentioned to me, he asked if we could do the solar workshop on that day. I said, no, that's too early for us to do that. I said, but we could line somebody else up for you. He said, our policy is not to have one organization too many times too close together. And he kind of dropped it. But obviously he didn't drop it.
So that's the CREW thing, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I might go to that, just.
Yeah, we should, a couple of us should go to that.
Think of-
Any other thoughts before we adjourn?
Just one follow-up. IRPTA is next meeting in February and it's only by Zoom.
Who's meeting?
February,
Oh, February.
February, and it's by Zoom.
Oh, sorry, yes.
That's when the next meeting.
I
is.
see.
Okay,
Well, what matters really is the newsletter. Right?
As far as solar is concerned. Maybe in our future, we might want to think about making a presentation to them.
Well,
well, they meet twice every summer.
Yeah. Well. All right, unless anyone has any other thoughts, I would like to adjourn this meeting,
second.
6:45.
I.
okay? Aye,